If someone had told me a year ago that I'd be sitting here talking about my death and what Jesus showed me afterward, I would have laughed in their face. Let me ask you something. If you knew you were going to die at 5:02 a.m. tomorrow, what would you do tonight? I didn't know, and yet I died. My name is Claire Hudson. I'm an emergency room nurse with over 12 years of experience working under harsh white lights and the constant scream of sirens. I know the rhythm of hearts racing against time. I'm familiar with blood, ventilators, weeping families, and the sharp crackle of defibrillators reviving people on the edge of death. In my world, there were no miracles, just adrenaline, statistics, and monitors. I was the kind of person who only believed in what could be measured. Near-death experiences and angel stories? I used to think they were emotional exaggerations told by desperate people. It wasn't that I hated religion, I just didn't see the point. But then, something began to crack. And it wasn't death that did it. It was life. My life at that time was a slow erosion. I came home at midnight and left before sunrise. Breakfast was cold coffee. Dinner was instant noodles eaten in a break room that smelled like bleach. I had a 9-year-old son named Caleb. He was the only reason I hadn't completely fallen apart. But even when I smiled at him, I knew the light had gone out of my eyes. It was the look of someone who'd been tired for so long, she forgot what resting felt like. I was alive, but like a machine. A machine that could care for others, but had forgotten how to listen to itself. I remember the night before I died. Caleb scored his first soccer goal. He ran toward me, that smile stretched so wide it nearly broke me. I should have scooped him up and cried with joy. But instead, all I could think about was, who's going to take him to school if I get called in early tomorrow? I had become too good at ignoring my inner signals, too good at functioning while drifting away from myself. Until that one morning. It seemed like an ordinary day. Foggy skies. Cold wind. The city is still asleep. I had my earbuds in, jogging through the park like always. A familiar meditation track played in my ears. My heartbeat was steady and light, almost peaceful. I didn't know that within minutes, everything would stop: my heart, my breath, and everything I had ever believed to be real. But before I tell you how I died, you need to know this. The most terrifying part wasn't death. It was what I saw immediately after. And it was Jesus who showed it to me. I didn't plan to run for long. I just wanted to ease a pressure I couldn't quite name, a tightness that had been living quietly inside my chest for months. The sky was dull gray, like a film of smoke had settled over the city and my mind. Caleb was still asleep. The house was silent. And I, like a walking shadow, stepped out the door in my usual sneakers, head down, heart expecting nothing. I always chose the quietest streets, the ones with the least traffic. I ran while mentally reorganizing my to-do list. Patient charts are still unsigned. Last-minute shift changes. Caleb's lunch. The car is overdue for an oil change. My mind was a living spreadsheet, with no room left for silence or feeling. That's why I didn't notice anything unusual about that morning. I didn't realize that each step I took was leading me to the edge between life and death. The last thing I remember was checking my watch at 5:02 a.m. That moment would become a permanent timestamp in my memory, assuming I lived long enough to remember it. I crossed a street that connected two quiet neighborhoods. The streetlight above flickered faintly over cracked sidewalks. I didn't hear an engine. No tires screeching. No impact. It was as if someone had hit the mute button on the world. One moment, I was running. Next, there was only emptiness. There was no pain. No jolt. No shattered glass or blood. Just a strange whiteness, wide and still. I didn't hear anything but my breathing. Until I realized I wasn't breathing. At first, I didn't know I had died. I felt like I was floating, not touching the ground or even the air. Suspended, weightless. Like a shadow unhooked from its body. Then I looked down. A woman was lying in the street, completely still. Her hair was tangled. One of her shoes had flown off. She was wearing the exact outfit I had on. But I didn't recognize her. My first thought as I looked at her was, she's in trouble. I hope someone helps her in time. And then I saw the light. But it wasn't the glow of street lamps or sunrise. It was a different kind of light entirely. It didn't come from in front of me, or behind, or above, or below. It came from everywhere and nowhere. I wasn't afraid. I only felt drawn in, as if some part of my soul had always belonged there and was finally finding its way home. But I didn't know that walking into that light would lead me straight to him. Not a dream. Not a vision, but Jesus. Real. Present. And what he showed me next is something you need to know, especially if you want to understand what's truly coming to this world. I used to think that if an afterlife did exist, it must be like a vague dream, a silent fog with no shape, no voice, no memory. But what I entered was anything but vague. It was sharper than any reality I had ever known. Every feeling, every image, every awareness was as precise as a blade. I didn't just see. I knew. I knew with my whole soul. That light didn't blind me, but it stripped me bare. It didn't burn, but it melted every mask I had ever worn. I saw myself, not in a mirror or reflection, but in truth. Everything I had hidden, forgotten, or buried resurfaced with clarity, like a film playing in a universe where darkness no longer existed. I saw myself as a child, as a teenager acting out, as a young woman lying to my mom just to go out. I saw myself during a recent shift, snapping at a patient because I was exhausted. I saw myself crying alone in the car after Caleb said, "You've never made it through a full birthday party of mine." And in the middle of those memories, I felt a gaze. Not the gaze of judgment, but the gaze of someone who knew me better than I knew myself. A gaze deep enough to touch every wound and wide enough to hold every failure. I didn't see his face, but I knew it was Jesus. There was no question, no proof needed, just presence. He didn't speak aloud, but I heard him, not through my ears, but through my entire being. There was no line between sound and thought. He said, "You are my child, and I've been waiting for you to realize it." I broke down, but it wasn't fear that made me cry. It was the tears of someone who had been away from home too long and was finally being welcomed back. He reached out not with a visible hand, but with guidance I could feel, like a current of love flowing through every fiber of my soul, drawing me deeper into the light. Then he said, "Claire, things are coming that the world is not ready for. But I will show them to you, and you must tell them." I didn't understand. I didn't feel qualified. I was just a nurse, an ordinary woman, a skeptic. But his gaze didn't allow doubt. "What I'm about to reveal will change you forever. But don't be afraid. I am always here." And as he led me forward, the world around me began to shift. A city appeared, but it wasn't the present. It was the future. I saw the year 2025, and I saw how humanity would willingly step into chains without realizing it. You need to hear this next part. Not to be afraid, but to awaken. I stood in the middle of a crowded city, yet no one saw me. People hurried past with their eyes fixed on an invisible plane, their hands flicking at unseen controls. No one spoke. No one looked at each other. Every interaction ran through devices embedded deep within their bodies, whether under the skin, in the bloodstream, or inside the mind, I could not tell. A faint green light pulsed beneath their wrists, foreheads, and necks. The whole scene unfolded in an unsettling silence. I turned to Jesus, and he said, "They believe they are free." He pointed toward a woman buying coffee. She never reached for a card or a phone. She simply raised her hand, and a scanner confirmed the purchase. A glow flashed beneath her skin. Jesus asked, "Do you see the chains?" I shook my head. He said, "That is what is terrifying. Chains today make no clanging sound. They glow and feel convenient." Event 1. Absolute technological integration in which people trade privacy and personal will for convenience. No one forces them. They chose it. That is the perfect trap. The scene shifted. I saw the ground split open and seawater surge into a city. Trees burned to ash. Storms tore entire neighborhoods away. I recognized California, Indonesia, and the Mediterranean. Millions fled, yet nowhere remained safe. Event 2. Earth pushing back. Warnings long dismissed became reality. Nature no longer appeared as a nurturing mother, but as the face of judgment. Jesus said, "The earth is not angry. It only reflects what humanity has done to its soul." In that moment, I understood that every outward catastrophe mirrors the fractures inside the human spirit. The scene changed again. I walked into a grand church shimmering with light and exquisite music. But when I looked closely, I saw the scriptures had been edited. God's words were trimmed and twisted. The preacher no longer spoke truth, only comfort. Worshippers filled the sanctuary, admiring, applauding, yet their eyes were hollow. Event 3. Faith was bought. Religion no longer served as a call to awaken, but had been reshaped into a soft cushion for comfort. People didn't come to church seeking truth. They came for what made them feel good. Jesus said only one thing, "That is no longer me." Then came the final vision. I saw ordinary people, farmers, nurses, bus drivers, and teachers standing still in the middle of chaos. They held no titles, no platforms. No news anchor spoke their names. But they prayed. They took care of one another. They held onto their faith like a small flame. And that flame began to spread. Event 4, light rising from the lowest places. Not from stages, not from influencers, but from quiet hearts. Jesus said, when all things collapse, it is these people who will keep life meaningful. I turned to him with tears streaming down my face. I asked, why are you showing me this? He replied, because you once doubted. And only those who have doubted, when they believe, can carry the flame with the greatest conviction. The light began to recede. I felt myself being pulled back. Every fiber of my soul trembled, not wanting to leave. But the last words Jesus left in my heart echoed louder than anything else. Tell them. You don't have to convince anyone. Just tell it. Those with ears will hear. Those with eyes will see. I woke up in the ICU. And for the first time in my life, I knew I had been born again. But what I saw, it didn't end there. You need to know how I came back and why I can no longer stay silent. I woke up to a strange calm, no choirs of angels, no blinding light, just the steady hiss of a ventilator, the blurry hospital ceiling, and the familiar beep of a monitor. I heard nurses calling my name, footsteps hurrying, someone sobbing. A rough, warm hand closed around mine, and I broke into silent tears. It was Caleb, my son. I had no idea how long I had been unconscious. The doctors told me my heart had stopped for nearly 2 minutes, that they shocked me, intubated me, airlifted me, and used every tool to pull me back. I listened, but what sent shivers through me was not survival itself. It was the certainty that I had truly left my body, that I had died, and I had met Jesus. My throat burned from the breathing tube. My voice was so weak I hardly recognized it, yet I whispered, I have to tell what I saw. In the days that followed, I felt like someone newly born. Every sense was sharpened. I looked at Caleb as though seeing his eyes for the first time. I heard the wind as though it carried its rhythm. I laid my hand over my heart and felt each beat as a sacred gift I had never honored before. I returned to the hospital not to work, but to sit with patients I once viewed as charts. I no longer saw them through a nurse's eyes, but through the eyes of a soul that had been lost and found. I touched their hands and said, You still have a reason to live. If you do not know it yet, ask. The answer will come. Am I afraid? Yes. I fear my words may fall short. I fear others may doubt me. I fear they may label me unstable. Yet the greatest fear is staying silent, because then what I witnessed could not help anyone. Jesus did not choose a preacher or a theologian. He chose me, an exhausted skeptic who had been living like a ghost. He sent me back to testify, and I know I must. What I will say in the final part is not meant to persuade you, but to call you. It may not be for everyone, yet if you are still listening, I believe it is meant for you. Part 6, Calling Your Name. Why I share this, I came back to life, but I am no longer the same. I am not the old Claire Hudson, the ER nurse juggling shifts and motherhood, the woman who once believed death was final and faith was optional, that God was merely a symbol for the weak. I am someone who has seen with her own eyes, and once you have seen, you cannot return to life as before. I know many will doubt. I was once among them. Some will say it was medication or a manufactured story for attention. I do not need you to believe me. I only ask that you listen with the quiet part of your soul. If you have known enough pain, if you have stared at the ceiling in the middle of the night and wondered whether your life matters, then a part of you is already prepared to remember. Remember that you are more than skin and bone, that you are not the sum of past mistakes, that you were made of light, and that light is still waiting for you to come home. I share this not because I am perfect, but because I was lost. I lived a life where my soul was absent. I wore the nurse uniform, did my duties, smiled on cue, yet inside was a bottomless void. I share because many others live that same way, still breathing, still existing, yet long ago stopped truly living. And if you feel your heartbeat pause for even a second while hearing these words, then perhaps your name is being called, not by me, but by the one who called me. You do not need to become religious or abandon your everyday life. You only need to open your heart enough to ask, if something greater than me exists, how should I live from this moment on? I do not know who you are or where you are, but I know that light overlooks no one, not the one with mistakes, not the skeptic, not you. Jesus told me, those who have ears will hear, those who have eyes will see. I have heard and I have seen, and now I testify. If you are still here, if you have stayed until this final moment, perhaps you are the next one being called.